Their empire is collapsing. Clues the narcissist is spiraling into helplessness. Have you ever wondered what becomes of the narcissist when the facade begins to crack, when the power they clung to so fiercely begins to slip through their fingers? Many people come to this question not out of curiosity, but from lived experience, the bewildering aftermath of a relationship that felt like emotional warfare. In these moments, it can feel as though you're watching a giant creature unravel. This exploration is not about revenge. It is about clarity. When you learn to recognize the subtle signs of a narcissist losing control, you protect yourself from further emotional injury. And for many survivors, this knowledge becomes the first thread of liberation they can finally hold onto. Narcissists are addicted to control in a way that seems almost biological. It is their oxygen, their lifeline, their only proof that they matter. For them, control is not about mutual influence or shared decision-making. It is about dominance, the confirmation that they sit at the top of an imagined hierarchy where everyone else exists beneath them, feeding their ego. Psychology calls this narcissistic supply, and it refers to anything that temporarily soothes the narcissist's inner emptiness. The tragic irony is that a narcissist does not truly feel powerful. Beneath the grandiose posturing lies a fractured inner world marked by profound insecurity. This fragility typically stems from childhood, experiences that crack their sense of self long before adulthood. Some narcissists were raised in environments of neglect, abuse, or chronic invalidation, where love was conditional and belonging was never certain. Others emerged from homes where they were idolized, overpraised, or told they were superior without ever developing depth, empathy, or resilience. These polarities create the same emotional deficit, a hollow identity with no stable core. To outsiders, narcissists can appear polished, charming, successful, or even enviable, but internally they are starving, terrified of being exposed as ordinary or inadequate. Because they lack a grounded, internal self-worth, they seek validation from external sources with desperate persistence. This is why narcissistic supply becomes essential for psychological survival. Supply can take the form of status symbols, high-paying careers, public admiration, or relationships that make them appear accomplished. But supply also slides into darker territory, insulting, devaluing, or dominating others. These acts give the narcissist a sense of power that masks their insecurity more effectively than praise ever could. This dynamic is rooted in what trauma therapists call narcissistic injury, a deep emotional wound carved into their identity that whispers, "You are unworthy." The more fragile the narcissist feels on the inside, the more intensely they cling to external control. And behind all of this, hidden beneath layers of defensiveness, is a frightened inner child who believes exposure equals annihilation. They will do anything, lie, blame, manipulate, or destroy, to prevent that truth from being seen. One of the clearest indicators that a narcissist is losing control is when their wound is touched, intentionally or not. Even neutral or accidental events can be interpreted as threats to their false identity. This is why their anger often erupts during the discard phase, whether they are being left or are doing the leaving. Either outcome threatens them. If they discard you, it is because they fear you are slipping away or no longer fueling their ego. If you escape or reject them, the narcissistic injury becomes unbearable because abandonment confirms the very thing they refuse to acknowledge, that they are not inherently worthy. In this stage, emotional volatility becomes their weapon of choice. The rage that bursts through the surface is not measured, thoughtful anger. It is primal panic masked as indignation. Their behavior often regresses dramatically, resembling a small child having a meltdown. They stomp, scream, threaten, or sulk with the emotional regulation of a toddler because psychologically they have never developed the internal structure required for mature coping. When they scream, lash out, or try to bulldoze your boundaries, they are communicating the same message a desperate child conveys through a tantrum. If I make enough noise, I can force reality to bend to my will. Understanding this regression is important for survivors. It helps separate identity from attack. Their rage is not a reflection of your worth. It is a reflection of their fear. And like a tantruming toddler, The narcissist becomes most dangerous when they sense that control is slipping away for good. The healthiest strategy at this stage is emotional detachment paired with firm boundaries. Do not explain, negotiate, or attempt to soothe them. You are not responsible for their emotions, and you cannot repair a wound that was created long before you ever entered their life. Distance, psychological, emotional, and when possible, physical, is the doorway to safety and ultimately to healing. When a toddler's tantrum is rewarded with attention or compliance, the child internalizes a dangerous lesson. Escalation produces power. The narcissist operates from the same primitive psychological circuitry. Their rage is not sophisticated. It is survival-level panic. When their voice gets louder, their accusations become crueler, and their threats turn apocalyptic, they are demonstrating, often unintentionally, that their mask is slipping and their inner scaffolding is collapsing. A narcissist's fury is never about you. It is a frantic effort to protect themselves from the unbearable terror of feeling irrelevant, powerless, or exposed. Their primitive brain believes, if I scream, if I belittle, if I intimidate, I will regain control. This is why their insults often target your most personal vulnerabilities, your parenting, your worthiness, your competence, your future. They are weaponizing the intimate knowledge they gained during the love bombing phase to wound you in the exact places you once trusted them to protect. This is the cruel genius of the narcissistic cycle. The same sensitivity that allowed them to mirror your desires and build emotional closeness in the beginning becomes, under stress, a map of your weak points. Psychologically, this behavior stems from what is known as projective identification. The narcissist cannot tolerate their own shame or fear, so they project it onto you, then attack you for displaying the very weakness they planted. When a narcissist says, "You're a terrible parent," or "You'll lose everything without me," what they are really declaring is, "I cannot survive losing admiration, validation, or power." But to the victim, the impact can be devastating. Every insult corrodes self-esteem. Every threat increases anxiety. This is why survivors often remain stuck far longer than they intended, because emotional abuse destabilizes the nervous system, creating confusion and self-doubt that mimic dependency. The threats themselves, whether losing custody, becoming homeless, or being cut off from support, reflect the narcissist's catastrophic thinking. Underneath the swagger is a frightened mind, convinced that dominance is the only route to emotional survival. Losing control to them feels like annihilation, and so they deploy tactics that are as ruthless as they are reactive. This is the same psychological pattern seen in abandonment trauma. When faced with the possibility of losing someone who once fed their ego, narcissists lash out with what clinicians call narcissistic panic. They believe that if they cannot own you through love, they will dominate you through fear. Yet their desperation reveals a profound truth. The victim is no longer operating under their spell, and the narcissist senses it. Many survivors recognize this moment intuitively: the tirades, the sudden emotional whiplash, the dramatic proclamations like, "I can't live without you," paired with "You'll regret this." This oscillation between love bombing and rage is not random. It is a psychological maneuver known as intermittent reinforcement, the same mechanism used in addiction conditioning. The narcissist alternates between reward and punishment to trigger confusion, longing, guilt, and hope, all of which keep the victim emotionally tethered. Understanding this dynamic is liberating because once the pattern is exposed, the emotional spell begins to break. Victims gain clarity. This chaos is not love. It is manipulation engineered to regain power. When survivors finally detach, emotionally, mentally, or physically, the narcissist senses a seismic shift. This is why many victims report sudden messages, pleas, promises, or threats after they set boundaries. A narcissist does not crave you as a person. They crave what you provide: validation, attention, stability, admiration, control. Once you stop feeding that system, the machine sputters. Psychologically healthy individuals accept the end of relationships with sadness, reflection, or grief. A narcissist reacts with rage, retribution, or theatrics because endings confront them with their deepest fear: that without an audience, they cease to exist. This is why community matters so profoundly in recovery. Victims emerging from narcissistic relationships often carry invisible wounds: hypervigilance, self-blame, emotional exhaustion, and a shattered sense of identity. Finding a space where people understand the dynamics, not superficially, but viscerally, can be life-changing. Support groups, education, therapy, and content like this provide what narcissists cannot: validation grounded in reality. Healing begins when survivors recognize that the chaos was never their fault, that the criticism was projection, and that their strength lies not in enduring the abuse, but in walking away from it. If you are reading or listening to this and it resonates, take it as a crucial sign that you are awakening from the psychological fog that narcissists depend on. The simple fact that you are learning, researching, and listening means your agency is returning. And as your clarity grows, the narcissist's power diminishes. Stay engaged. Keep asking questions. Build support. Replace confusion with knowledge and isolation with community. The more you learn, the harder it becomes for anyone, especially someone manipulative, to control your narrative again. You are not alone. You are not imagining it. And you are not weak for having been ensnared by someone adept at emotional deception. You are simply human, and now you are becoming informed. Stay on this journey, stay connected, and continue reclaiming the life that someone once convinced you did not deserve. The next chapter belongs to you, not to them.